Shalom, shalom, Israel. Welcome to Warriors of the Ruwach, where we fight for, uphold, and defend the commandments of Abba YaHuWaH. Don't forget, go to warriorsoftheruwach.com, become a member, and get access to all the full videos that we drop on this channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. And lastly, serve Abba YaHuWaH alone, because that is what he requires Israel to do. So, last and not least, let's get it.
Anyone who tries to argue from the Gospel of John that Jesus is not God has a huge uphill battle to fight. Because John's Gospel starts off with what? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Wow, John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, so here's the Word, and the Word's with God, so here's God, and the Word was God. What just happened? Mind blown. How is the Word with God and also God at the same time? Whatever the answer is, we need to realize that John's Gospel says somehow the Word was with God and is God. And the next verse says he was in the beginning. Ein arche. He was in the beginning with God. And then verse 14 says the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory. Oh man, so much to talk about. I haven't actually answered that question since I've been doing my recent studies at Oxford, so I'm trying to craft in my head how to put this all together.
Shalom, shalom, Israel. This is Javon with Warriors of the Ruwach, and I wanted to take this opportunity to explain cross-reference and show what cross-reference is. So when we look that up in the dictionary, it's a reference to another text or part of a text typically given in order to elaborate on a point. So in the previous clip, we had a Christian making the fantastic claim that Jesus, or Yahushua, YaHuWaH, Yeshua, whatever names you want to put on this Christian New Testament Messiah, that person was with Yahuwah in the beginning of creation. So he brings up the verse John 1:1. And so let's look at that. Let's do a cross-reference on John 1:1. So when you jump on the Blue Letter Bible online, or if you have the physical book, you can do the same thing and look up John 1:1, and we can read it real quick. It says, in the beginning was a Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. That's what it says in the Christian New Testament. So when we click the tab that says cross-reference, it will bring up all of the scriptures that support this verse and where this verse is coming from. Now, for all of us who trust in Yahuwah's Torah, which is his instructions to Israel, we want to see the Hebrew Torah verse of scripture, because Christianity and the religion of Christianity makes the claim that their Christian New Testament is the fulfillment or fulfills the Hebrew Torah, all the prophecies and things of the Hebrew Torah. So we need to find out, okay, where are they pulling these scriptures from in the Christian New Testament over in the Hebrew Torah? So as we look below, it brings up Genesis 1:1. And that says, in the beginning, God, or Elohim, the mighty one, created the heaven and the earth. So when we read this in its proper context, not using Christian theology, not using Christian mindset, trying to implant things into the word, which we know the Creator says for us not to add or remove, we can clearly see when we read this verse, Genesis 1:1, in the Hebrew Torah, we can clearly see that Yahuwah establishes that he created the heavens and the earth alone. It's just that simple. We're not trying to add, we're not trying to remove. We also know in Yashayahu, which is Isaiah 42:8, we know that Yahuwah says that he will give his esteem or praise over to no one, neither to any kind of graven images. And that's exactly what this Christian New Testament person is. It's an idol. Okay, so Right off that, just with that scripture, doing a small cross reference, we see that YaHuWaH was alone. Again, we aren't to add or remove. And if we do that, we are violating the Torah, which again is YaHuWaH's specific instructions to his chosen people, Israel. This Christian speaker also brings up John 1 and 14. We can read it really quick, and it says, "And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace, full of truth." And this is the scripture that Christianity wants to prove that the Messiah, again, Jesus, Yahushua, Yahweh, Isa, Yeshua, Yasha, all the various names, they want to use that to prove that the Word was made flesh, and this is how he became a fleshly body. Once again, let's cross-reference that John 1:14 and let's see what it brings up. We click the cross-reference tab, it brings up all of the scriptures. And what does it bring us? Remember, we're looking for the Hebrew ToRaH. We want scriptures from the Torah. We're not concerned about the New Testament. We don't want to validate the New Testament with the New Testament. We don't want that. They're claiming the Hebrew ToRaH is their foundation. So we've got to find where in the Hebrew ToRaH is it saying that Jesus was made flesh, was going to be made flesh. Where's that at? Where is that in the Hebrew ToRaH? So it brings up the very popular Isaiah 7:14. And I'll read it here at face value. It says, "Therefore the Lord," but we know it says YaHuWaH in the Hebrew. "Therefore YaHuWaH himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel." Now we know that Isaiah 7:14 is a extremely popular verse of scripture that Christians love to use. This is where they claim that Jesus, the Word, becomes flesh. However, what do we always say? Always make time to go back to the origins, research all the pieces, and read everything in its proper context. When we read this, when we read Isaiah chapter 7 and 8, and we put it in its proper Hebrew context and historical timeline, we understand and know that this has nothing to do with some Christian New Testament Messiah. When making the time to read everything in proper context, we know that chapter 7 specifically, it's a detailed description of events surrounding the military conflict between Ahaz, the king of the southern Israel or Yisrael, and King Pekah of the northern kingdom, or aka Ephraim. When you read chapter 7 of Isaiah, YaHuWaH, we see that he was instructed by YaHuWaH to take his son, Shar-Yashub, with him to the washer's field where King Ahaz was hiding out. Again, it's a backstory. Read it in its proper context. But what you'll realize is that this so-called virgin, and let me just say, you can Google misinterpretation of Isaiah 7:14. It's out there. It's not a secret about that virgin, that word virgin being misinterpreted. And for all of those who want to find out, on our Words of the Ruwach website, there's a full breakdown on that. However, that is a misinterpretation. But according to what we're reading and in the Hebrew, that virgin being referenced in that script is in fact Yahuwah's wife. That's who that is, a prophetess. So common sense will tell us, how can this virgin then be a virgin if she already had a son named Shar-Yashub with Isaiah? So she was already not a virgin then. So again, when we read this in proper context, we've got to stop implanting Christian thinking. We've got to stop adding to the word, because that's a violation. When we read this in proper context, it all makes sense. So the real sign here to wicked Ahaz was that Yahuwah's wife not the child, not having a child. That was not the sign, okay? The real sign was that before this child, because she was going to have a child, can say the words father and mother and knows right from wrong, or can even eat honey, and we know that's referenced in scripture in Isaiah, what is it, 7:15 through 16, 8 and 4, that both armies, both incoming armies would be destroyed. The ones that were coming against Judah or YaHuWaH would be destroyed. What's even more amazing is that when we do real historical research on the Syro-Ephraimitic War, we can see that it only lasted from 734 to 732 BCE. So there's actual historic records of those two nations, those two enemies being destroyed in history. And that's just something that's just very beautiful, because it also points to these things being real. So I just wanted to take a minute to explain cross-reference, and anyone can do this. It can take a few minutes just to cross-reference Christian New Testament scriptures against its foundation, which is the Hebrew ToRaH. Now I will say this, a whole lot of scriptures in the Christian New Testament will not have a Hebrew ToRaH foundation. Throw it out, okay? Because they're making claims and they're supposed to be having it tied back to the Torah. Also, on the flip side, just because they do have scriptures that are being pointed to in the Hebrew ToRaH, go read it in its full and proper context, and do not add Christian theology to that thought process. Don't look back in the Hebrew ToRaH using Christian mindset, which is try to find Jesus, try to find Yahushua moving along in the past. If it was not stated, Abba Yahuwah didn't make a mistake. He said what he said, and he's doing what he's doing. Again, if you're adding or removing to Yahuwah's word, then you're saying your word supersedes the Father. You're saying Jesus, Yahushua, whoever, YaHuWaH, their words are superseding the Creator. We know the Creator doesn't change. We know he has established what he's established, and it's not a mystery because Scripture states that he does nothing in secret. It's not a mystery. He's already told his prophets what it is. So we shouldn't be saying Christian thinking, which is, God moves in mysterious ways. We don't know why God does what we do know. We know what Yahuwah is going to do because he stated it. He already established it through his prophets. This is why we've got to read the Torah. We've got to ingest the Torah, live by the Torah, and uphold and defend it with vigor and might, okay? So I just wanted to take a few minutes to explain cross-referencing and show how easy it is to look at a Christian New Testament scripture and try to cross-reference with the Hebrew, because they're claiming that's their foundation. So if it's not there, throw it out. If it is there, read it in its proper context and read the full story so that you're not implanting things that shouldn't be there. The Father continues to establish in his Torah that he is the only one. He saves, he redeems, he does it all, and that there is no one else beside him. He is the only one.